You are watching Top Notch TV Beyond the Lens.
Tonight on Let's Talk Tourism, we host Professor Tadeo Rusoke and Honorable Sesanga Humza, who will be telling us about the education, conservation, and awareness of wildlife in Uganda. Let's hear from them.
We are still talking about conservation, education, youth, media engagement, and of course, the conservation bodies that are behind of what we intend to do to have healthier ecosystems. We are still having distinguished guests from different conservation bodies, and guests with me whom I have this evening is the Executive Director of Wildlife Clubs of Uganda, and of course he has other different titles himself, and join us on this program to make sure that we intend to know what this big man we have here at the moment. Sir, you're most welcome on Let's Talk Tourism.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maurice, for hosting me on Top Notch TV. Speak about the subject of conservation, and of course, general, as you know, conservation supports tourism development. Thank you for having me.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. Briefly tell us about yourself.
Yes, well, I do quite a lot of things, but today I will speak from the angle of the Wildlife Clubs of Uganda. And Wildlife Clubs of Uganda is a membership-based organization for all Ugandans of goodwill to promote conservation education and public awareness. So as tourism professionals, we come in to ensure that people understand why it is important to protect the environment so that tourism can flourish and thrive. Otherwise, I'm Tadeo Rusoke, a conservation scientist by profession, and a professor of natural resource management and sustainable tourism. Like you said, I support very many organizations, and I'm privileged to be here this evening to discuss issues conservation and tourism for our country, Uganda.
All right, yeah, thank you so much, Doctor. Let's now move into what WCU probably is doing. And of course, I will start with WCU has led most of the youth-based conservation for almost a lot of years. Previously, with over 50 years in existence. Now, what's the core philosophy that is behind this conservation work that WCU is doing?
Yeah, thank you so much. I will summarize WCU, basically, like I said, founded in 1975. This year in November, we shall be celebrating in 50 years. And maybe for the location, we are located at the UMA Showgrounds, or Uganda Manufacturers Association Showground in Lugogo. Those are the permanent headquarters of the Wildlife Clubs of Uganda. Like I said, the clubs are for all Ugandans of goodwill who are interested in conservation. And one of the main benefits, maybe for the public, is that when you acquire the wildlife card, it entitles you to enter any national park in Uganda at a fee of 2,000 Ugandan shillings. The card is 2,000 shillings, and at the same time, it allows you to enter any national park in Uganda at 2,000. Well, maybe apart from the special category parks, that is Bwindi and Kibale and Mugahinga, but the rest of the parks, the rest of the conservation areas, you can enter the same fee. So the card goes for 10,000 for adult Ugandans who are not students, and the students only pay 2,000. So this is the biggest incentive of the clubs. And what we do mainly is conservation, education, and public awareness. We educate Ugandans on the importance of conserving the environment. Like I said, conserving the environment comes with very many benefits. Okay. And one of those is economic development through tourism. If we conserve our ecosystems, we are able to get visitors who can visit the different protected areas, and we earn money as a country. Tourism is among the third top earners for the country when it comes to the revenue that we generate. So it contributes greatly in terms of the GDP for our country. But most of our tourism is wildlife based. or it is based on nature, on natural resources. So that's why we're saying it is important for us to come in as WCU, working with the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquity, working with the Department of Wildlife Conservation, working with several agencies, NEMA, Uganda Wildlife Authority, Uganda Wildlife Research and Training Institute, working with the Uganda Tourism Board. We are working with quite a number of stakeholders, Ministry of Water and Environment, to ensure that we bring all Ugandans on board to understand issues of environmental conservation so that we are able to protect our shared resources and for purposes of tourism development and other attendant ecosystem services, clean water, clean air, and others, as you know. So that's how we come in. We come in to create awareness, and we do this through clubs or a club system, whereby we go into a school, we form a club. We form a club, and when we form this club, it is the club now that spearheads the different activities, including actually even food security in schools. So we have several clubs in primary schools, in secondary schools, in high institutions of learning, and within the communities. And like I said, the main mandate here is conservation education and public awareness. We complement the government efforts to conserve. So that is what WCU majorly does in Uganda.
Okay. Yeah, thank you about all that brief description about wildlife clubs of Uganda and your core values. That's the core philosophy that is behind. Now, you are the executive director of wildlife clubs of Uganda. So, and you have mostly shared us about what wildlife clubs do, particularly the school clubs. Now, I have one question that I would want to put across. How are school-based clubs transforming, I may say, environmental conservation, or how are they improving the environmental, I may say, general conservation of the entire country, or where the schools they could be for the time that you have been in the office?
Young people are the champions for nature conservation, and I think it is important to empower the young people than even the adults, because this is the future generation, and we are saying we are conserving for generations. We are conserving wildlife and the environment. So when we start with the young people, these take the message home as change agents. So it is important when we involve the young people, it is easier for us to use the young people to transform their parents or change the attitudes of their parents. And you must have heard, like, with our partners like the Uganda Wildlife Authority, we have a group of people called like reformed poachers. These people they can only reform from poaching when they have been educated. Okay, and we are saying the best way to do this is to use the young people to take the message home. And some of our work, which we even do with international partners, like say the World Aid East Africa, is coming up with messages, audio visuals, printed materials about some of the challenges which man is imposing on nature. For instance, when it comes to the issue of wildlife crime, we have worked with the Wild Aid East Africa chapter to come up with the story of a comic book called Beatrice's Wildlife Adventure. And because you're talking about young people, so here is a story whereby a parent goes poaching chimpanzees for bushmeat.
Sure.
And when the parent brings home the chimpanzee meat, the children refuse to eat the meal because they have been educated at school that eating chimpanzee meat or bushmeat is a challenge which can result in even people attracting what we call contracting zoonotic diseases. So the child says, look, daddy, we are not able to eat this meat because we can easily contract zoonotic diseases like Marburg and others. So now the parent gets concerned and asks these learners, how do you come to know about this? They say, through our wildlife club at school, we educated about the dangers of eating bushmeat. So you realize that the parents, most times when they move out, they have gone out to fend for their families. But if you bring what the children cannot eat or what members of your household cannot eat, then definitely now it is a no deal. So you realize that changing attitudes and perceptions towards wildlife conservation or towards mitigating or addressing issues of wildlife crime, it is important to have a change agent in the middle there. And it is the children or the youth or the learners who can easily take this message to their parents. And in any case, as you know, in Uganda, our country here, we have one of the most youngest population. We have very many of the quantity of our population below 30 years. All these are young people who are using social media, who are using most of these engagement tools that are online. And you realize that we have very few elderly people who even own smartphones, especially in the rural areas. But the learners are exposed to all these instruments. And now, even as we are talking right now on Top Notch TV, you realize that when you share this message, the biggest of your consumers will be the youth. So it is important to target the youth to deliver the message home. And that is why we are looking at the youth, both in school and those who are out of school, but those who are more active on some of these social medias and all these other engagements, online engagements, so that they can easily pick the message and take it back to the communities, so that we can address the challenge of wildlife crime, protect our ecosystems, like I said, for tourism development and for sustainable development.
Okay.
So that's why we're working with the young people.
Okay. I
Yes.
see your programs are more diverse and there are a lot in line with conservation, both the environment and the wildlife. So basically, how does WCU position itself or strategize itself to make sure that these programs are all moving according to how they're supposed to be in across the whole country?
Yes, we have a robust system, and that speaks to the structure of the wildlife clubs of Uganda, whereby the topmost body is the General Assembly. Any Ugandan who buys a wildlife card becomes a member of the General Assembly.
Okay.
And from the General Assembly, we have our patron, who is always the Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities. Then from there, we have the Board of Trustees. Then we have the Secretariat. So the Secretariat is in charge of daily operations. So from the Secretariat, which is in Kampala, for us, we use grassroots structures whereby the Secretariat is in charge of regional coordinators. The regional coordinators are found at every region in the country.
Okay.
The regional coordinators are in charge of the district wildlife chairpersons and the school-based club patrons. So a club is comprised of individuals, community, or learners, and from this particular club, that's why you'll find that, and the club is at a school level. So we make sure that our programs begin from the grassroots up to the top. And we don't also do this work alone. We work with several partners. Like I've told you, when you look at our board, we are having 9 board members from the Ministry of Water, from the Ministry of Tourism, from the Uganda Wildlife Education and Conservation Center. We're having a board member from the universities, a board member from primary schools, a board member from secondary schools, a board member from all conservation organizations in the country. Then there is another board member from representing students and also the secretary to the board. So we work with several partners, local and international, but we have a well-laid structure whereby from a club at the school level in a rural area, like right now in Imbarara, from maybe that farthest village, last mile community in Imbarara, where the club is, the club can easily coordinate through the district wildlife chairperson, through its patron, up to the secretariat. Then the message from the secretariat is will go up the national level.
Okay.
Then our international partners. So we more or less have, actually, we have a well laid down structure whereby it is easy for us to mobilize and pass on the conservation message.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's an interesting organization structure that you have laid to put across. Then finally, how do you think media could come in support to the work of wildlife clubs? Do you think the media at the moment has done what it's supposed to be doing in line with the conservation bodies, or there is more strategy and more efforts that are needed for the media to be engaged?
Well, thank you for that question. Even right now, we are speaking to the media. So it is the media which is taking the message to the public. I know, like Top Notch TV, you have a big audience. And when you keep engaging people on important issues of national development, you will grow your audience. So the media is one of the major partners in every aspirations for taking the message home or to the right people. But you realize that maybe what is important now that we are going majorly online, there are some challenges whereby maybe the media will need support, like maybe issues of connectivity, access to internet, access to data, access to critical infrastructure, cutting edge technology, real-time reporting. All this is key. For instance, like okay, well, now if a person is not now watching top TV at the moment, top-notch TV, they miss out the message. But at least they can go on YouTube and maybe find your message. But we want to see like maybe the media now becomes more real time, whereby maybe if the story is starting now, people can get notifications from wherever they are. They start following the conversation. We are speaking right now. Maybe you're having a very big audience. All these things are key, but you realize that maybe the government will need to come in, or even any other development partners, support the media with some of these, like I said, cutting edge technology to ensure that the message reaches its intended recipients in the shortest time possible. But for now, I think there is a policy, a very liberal policy, whereby many media houses have been able to come up, including the top-notch TV. So even if we are having sometimes challenges, maybe to deal with media freedoms, whereby sometimes the media is interfered with in the way they do their work, but I can say, in my own opinion, so far so good. The media is trying.
Okay.
The ground may not be leveled, but the media is trying to take out the conservation message. And actually, for the conservation message, the message is reaching out there. It could be maybe in the other sectors where they are having challenges, maybe in politics, but also in conservation. Yes, we have our own conservation politics, but at least the conservation message will easily go out and be heard compared to politics. So to me, the media is doing very well so far when it comes to passing on the conservation message to the Ugandans and to the world at large.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Sometime I have always been seeing Uganda Wildlife Authority trying to create what we call conservation media awards, right?
Yes.
Yes. Do you think these conservation media awards really bring the media houses to showcase these stories, or do you think that these stories are not showcased by Uganda Wildlife Authority conservation awards, or do you think they will create impact to the media houses to make sure that all these conservation stories are being showcased?
Yeah, thank you. I think the issue of giving awards to maybe best performing journalists, people who are involved in spreading the conservation messages. It is not, it is not only Uganda Wildlife Authority, but also them organizers.
Nemo.
You can call them nature awards.
Okay.
It is important. It is a good motivation to the people who are putting out the story, because you realize that most times the conservation stories are not selling. But when you put there an incentive, if you incentivize the media, it is good for them to put in more effort. And no wonder we are seeing now more. We are seeing more media houses coming up to promote conservation, and that is the way to go. Because if we don't address this, we all know the major now planetary crisis of our times: pollution, environmental degradation, and climate change. All these are here. If we cannot protect our environment, we will definitely suffer all these effects of climate change. People will go hungry, people will die of flooding, and all these sort of negative effects, including the increase in some of these environmental related diseases, respiratory infections, direct exposure leading to cancers, and all that. So it is important that all the media houses create some time or give some airtime to pass on a conservation message. Thank you so much.
Okay, finally, Professor, I was a bit selecting through your social media handles, and then I landed on a post whereby someone was throwing a plastic bottle outside actually on the road from his vehicle, and then you highly quoted about that. Do you think under policy making, do you think that NEMA is really doing what it's supposed to be doing as far as protecting or conserving our environment is concerned? You as a person, you raised the concern, but do you think that those conservation bodies came out to see these things that are happening, and maybe this cause that has been raised by a person like you, Prof?
There are a lot of issues surrounding the management of plastics and other waste. Institutions are trying their best, but I think we need a deliberate policy on banning the importation or the entry of these plastics, or even stopping the manufacturing. Plastic pollution is a very new thing, I think, which has evolved so very fast in the 2000s. Previously, we would use our recyclable bags when we were growing up. That's what we used to use. But there has to be a deliberate effort, especially to put a ban on single-use plastics. So yes, NEM is trying. They are trying to create awareness. We are all trying to come and create awareness. We have just concluded the World Environment Day in Kabale, and it was uniting against plastic pollution.
Okay.
All this is key, but we need to see more and more efforts, and also a deliberate effort from the government to put in place maybe policies to ban especially the single-use plastics, and maybe all those who are involved in recycling, upscaling, reorienting, they may need some sort of support, maybe seed grants, or maybe waiving off some of the taxes that will deter them from doing much better than what they are doing today.
Okay.
So it requires efforts of different stakeholders to ensure that we all achieve the management of plastic pollution. But what you can say, institutions are trying their best, and we hope to see much more success stories in the future.
All right.
Yes.
It's a pleasure having you, Doctor.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much
You're
for
most
hosting
welcome.
me. I look forward to participating in future.
All right.
You are watching Top Notch TV, Beyond the Lens.
Like I told you, among our distinguished guests that we have in our this epic episode, we have Mr. Sesanga Hamza, who is championing environmental conservation, and within, of course, within the young generation. And guess what? We are here to promote environmental conservation towards our audiences, and to make sure that we have what the healthy ecosystems can be able to generate. And of course, we go straight to him, Mr. Hamza. It's a pleasure having you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Briefly tell us about yourself and what you do in line with conservation.
Thank you, Maurice. My name is Hamza Sesang, and I'm the program officer, Wildlife Clubs of Uganda. I am a conservation biologist by profession, so I think that's why the Wildlife Clubs of Uganda picked interest in my professionalism to serve as a person who coordinates programs in the organization.
Okay, before we go deep into of our topic of conservation, you are honorable. Also, don't leave that big point. If you have honorables who are conservationists, just like you see Kenya, their president is an ecologist. So that creates a big impact. So tell us about also your position about that.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that. I happen to also be a politician or a leader in Chira municipality, Namugongo division, where I serve as the directly elected councillor for Chireka Central, and I also sit on the executive committee of the chairperson LC3 Namugongo division as his secretary for finance, planning and administration, and as his personal assistant. So the two careers, the conservation biologist in me and the politician in me, do not clash, but rather both coexist in me, and they have helped me, and I believe even the institution and the nation at large in terms of conservation and leadership, the policies that we draft in council as you go up to the national level. We keep improving them from the local government system up to the national politics. Yeah.
All right. Before I start shooting you bullets, we are at Acacia Country Inn, a hotel in Mbarara. how do you see this place in line with what you do, maybe in line with conservation?
One, first, Acacia Country in Mbarara has exhibited first good sanitation. When it comes to the environment is clean, and as an environmentalist, as a conservation biologist, I really accredit them for that. Two, the delicious dishes. I cannot leave that out because from number SDG number 2 emphasizes zero hunger. We came here with a group of about 40 patrons, and all of them are happy about the dishes. So I want to give credit to the management, the main chef inside there preparing for us those dishes, that we are really, really so humbled, and we give you a big credit. The dishes are really, really delicious. All the cuisines are marvelous. As conservationists, sustainable development goal number 2 is assured for us here. We are really happy.
Of course, now I come back to our motto for the country, for God and my. Okay. Now, Mr. Hamza, let's come to what has brought us on this day. Probably you always run most of the WCU programs at the national level, right?
Yeah.
So could you walk us through how your WCU programs are being implemented at school and community levels?
Thank you, Maurice. As Wildlife Clubs of Uganda was started in 1975, we are actually celebrating our 50 years this year, around September. And I think we shall invite the different stakeholders to celebrate this big milestone. Wildlife Clubs of Uganda is a non-government organization that majorly focuses on conservation, education, and public awareness in both communities and schools and institutions. And our major focus here is to build the capacity of our patrons, teachers, leaders in communities, community members, and school-going children in line with conservation and environmental protection. So we do this through organizing different capacity building workshops, like one we are having now here in Barara at Acacia Country Inn. We are building capacity of patrons as future leaders for protection of the habitats of our endangered blue-print crane under the support of International Crane Foundation. Another thing is that organize school outreach programs, which enables us to interact with school-going children directly, and we spread the message of conservation. We develop their capacities. We develop their capacity to come up with actionable plans that can really emphasize environmental conservation in communities and as well as in the schools we are really going to. Furthermore, we do have what we call exchange visits between the different schools. There are scenarios where we have wildlife club members, environmental club members of, let's say, Mbara Junior School visiting wildlife club members of, we have Mbara Municipal, to brainstorm on which activities, on which action plans. This is always in partnership with their patrons and with support from our regional coordinators, this National Secretariat, our Executive Director, and our partners like UA, NEMA, and ICF. Then another thing is that we do what we call partnerships. We work with partners like Uganda Wildlife Authority, as earlier mentioned, National Environment Management Authority, Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, International Crane Foundation and Endangered Wildlife Trust, like we are doing now here. It is a partnership so that we see conservation education and public awareness is achieved in those institutions and communities where we are operating.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. You said about conservation awareness initiatives that you're doing within at the school level and within the communities. Now, let's come at gender inclusivity. Okay. How do you strategize to make sure that these, for example, like women, senior women, they are being engaged in the conservation work? Remember, these are the mothers that go to maybe to go for gardening. These are the people that go for to look for other resources like firewood, accessing some of the protected areas. How do you intend to reach them out, or how have you been reaching them out?
Thank you, Maurice. As Wildlife Clubs of Uganda, we certainly don't just come to your institution, to your school, your university, but we establish what we call a leadership structure. In that leadership structure, in a school or in a university, we always emphasize we have elective positions, but we are always gender sensitive on those positions. If at all we have, let's say, the club president being male, we always emphasize that his deputy or his vice is a female.
Okay.
That one is alone a gender sensitive role that we are taking to involve the females, because especially here in Africa, women are very key in community and livelihood programs, because we believe as Africans that women spend much of their time in this environment. When, for example, here in Africa, most of the farming and the community livelihood work is actually done by women. So if women are empowered with this conservation knowledge, we believe it will, go to the future, or it will be spread to the future through the babies or these young people they are giving birth to, they are taking care of. Like we said, as Wildlife Club members, Wildlife Clubs of Uganda, our major focus is to empower the young generation. So if you empower the women, you have empowered the young generation, because they are the mothers of this generation.
You're very right.
Yes, and SDG number 6 emphasizes gender equity. So in our leadership structure, we make sure that at least out of the 6 positions, 3 or 2 are taken up by females. She can either be the president of the club, the secretary, the vice, publicity secretary, or a treasurer, to involve them, to include them in their conservation issues. As well as, women are very instrumental, or the female gender is very instrumental in shaping communities, and like I said, young people, the young ones. Most of the projects, especially that are focusing on community livelihoods, are always engaged in by women. When you go to what, like for example, in council, what we are doing as, let me say, if I take now the other shoe of being a leader, government has come up with so many initiatives. Like we have the Uganda Women Empowerment Program, UWEP, funding. Every year these women groups receive money from central government. And even the parish development model, when you look at it very well, the special interest groups, including women, youth, and the disabled, are actually given much package as opposed to any other gender. Yeah. So I think one, I want also to thank the government of the Republic of Uganda for its policies that are actually helping to empower, to emancipate the females or the female gender in this country.
Okay.
Because indeed they are doing it. When you look at even in leadership, we have now seen so many women leaders. The policies when it comes to education, what we do, because conservation, education, and public awareness is also part of education. And education still also is under Sustainable Development Goals. That is Sustainable Development Goal number 4, quality education. Quality education involves so many things: conservation education, going to the good schools, all that kind of stuff. There is also a policy at the university where the females are actually given a 1.5. All that is to empower them and become good environmental protectors or ambassadors.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. In your previous words, you quoted that WCU, you're almost 50 years.
Yes.
And that is around 1973, probably.
5. We are actually
1975.
50 years now.
50 years. Or can you say that this year you're celebrating?
Yes, 50.
What feedback have you gotten from them in case you try to encourage them, do this? Do you later go ahead and see maybe this has been implemented, this has been done, what are these people saying, blah, blah, something like that?
Yeah, as well as clubs of Uganda, we have an M&E strategy through our school outreach programs. Whenever we go to a school or a community, train them. Of recent, we have had so many trainings like this one, but there is this recent one where we went to Mary Hill, Katabi. There's a school there. There is a school in Katabi and Tebe. We took their patron to Naivasha. I forgot maybe to tell you that annually, Wildlife Clubs of Uganda nominates about 10 patrons from across the country to go for a capacity building workshop in Naivasha, Kenya, at El Samia Center of Sustainability. So for us to evaluate whether we are really impacting or we are causing change, we went and visited Maryland. And we found out that the knowledge or the capacity that we built into our patron of Maryland was actually impacting, because when she went to the school, she had established these backyard gardening, simple backyard gardens using still plastic wastes, which is an indicator that that kind of feedback, we can look for the feedback, because it is them that actually invited us. Because the question was, how do we assess? It is them that invited us to come and witness what the patron is really doing after the training.
Okay.
And then another thing is that we have had a lot of testimonies from those that have been members of the Wildlife Clubs of Uganda, like for example, the current CEO of Conservation through Public Health, Dr. Gladys Zigso Akarema.
Okay.
She has always been giving a testimony that she's what she is because of the Wildlife Clubs of Uganda. The current Chief Warden of Uwek Conservation Area, Mr. David Musing, says he has been in the clubs for the last 30 years, and the clubs have made him. Even me, I'm a testimony of clubs, because I've been a member of the Wildlife Clubs of Uganda since my primary. Up to now, I didn't know that I would join as the program officer for the Wildlife Clubs of Uganda. So through that, we have different people in different positions in terms of career. So through careers that they have gained, we believe that, yeah, we are doing really a great job. Whoever was subscribing to the club and ends up in a very good position, good institution, is a clear indicator and a feedback mechanism that Wildlife Clubs of Uganda is really impacting lives.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much about that. Now, you're a politician. Let us come now to policy making levels. How do you bridge the gap, right, of policy making in line with conservation and, of course, with the real grassroots actions that we have at the moment?
Policy requires a number of things, but for any policy to be impactful or to be important to a community, it must be engaging the people. So as a leader, I won't say a politician, we always first consult those that we are going to draft the policy for or the law. And I think even in the acts of Uganda, for you to come up with a law, or you first go and consult the people whether it will work or it won't work. Yes. So after moving out to the communities and engaging them, like for example, Wildlife Clubs of Uganda, I will refer to Wildlife Clubs of Uganda in partnership with Wildlife Conservation Society, WCS. We are having a running program on re-emphasizing and igniting the people around Murchison Falls National Park on the Wildlife Act of, actually it is now amended, the Wildlife Act of 2024, because it was amended.
Okay.
Yes. But initially it was the Wildlife Act of 2019 when we were doing it, by the time the project started. But now, as amended, it is the Wildlife Act of 2024, which saw Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center being merged with Uganda Uganda Wildlife Authority.
Okay.
So now the current act that is governing is the 2024 Wildlife Act.
Okay.
We were emphasizing the people on the penalties of engaging themselves in in wildlife trafficking. But of course, people are not aware. We went there, we discussed the policy with them, and they really understood the penalties. Did you know that if you are found in possession of wildlife species or their skins or what, you either imprisoned for life or you pay a fine of 20 billion Uganda shillings. So, or both. if the judge is not free, he can tell you to pay both 20 billion Uganda shillings.
Sometimes you
go in prison for life. So those are the kind of work we do. We go in communities, we introduce the policy, discuss it with the communities, and then we tell them the repercussions of violating such laws. I think in terms of policy, that is how I can answer that question.
Yeah, I realize these policies, they are highly favoring wildlife, right? I don't know if you have some other policies that would really favor our general environment. Could you maybe, for example, influence NEMA such that these policies, if people are found littering across town, not in protected areas, maybe something can be done?
Yes, but Uganda Wildlife Authority, through its revenue sharing policy, all those communities, sub-counties, districts that are near protected area, they give them money in their budgets every financial year. I've seen the executive director of Uganda Wildlife Authority, Dr. Musingis, disbanding about close to 2 billion to communities near
20% of revenue sharing.
Yes, okay. Near, is it Windy? I will have to check. But in this month, 2 billion. So those policies are actually good, and they help enhance the budgets of these local councils, these local governments. And of course, they come with the condition. They are conditioned grants, so that if we give you our 20 billion, we want you to come up with, they say, a school. They give it to the institute, to the leadership of the local government. Come work on the roads, work on the bridges, infrastructural development, and maybe even livelihoods. There are some cases where the local government may opt to say, no, for us we want community livelihoods, and money goes into that direction.
All right.
Yes.
We understand that the moment we are in a technological era advancement, right? And technology is the way to go. So in our work of conservation that WCU is doing, how do you try to integrate technology or innovative tech-based solutions in line with conservation?
Actually, technology has really helped us in this reign. I joined WCU in 2022, and we technically at the secretariat we are only 2 staff. But you cannot believe this, that we are only 2 staff. But because of technology, you will see us everywhere.
You're right.
Because of technology. So we have a running X page which is active with a number of followers, a Facebook page with a number of followers. We have a number of WhatsApp groups where we have different stakeholders disseminating information concerning conservation and public awareness. So technology is really key in relaying this message. Now, like we are here in this workshop, but people across the country have already gotten the information that Wildlife Clubs of Uganda, in partnership with International Crane Foundation, are training patrons in southwestern Uganda, districts of Ruchiga, Mbarara, Isinjiro, Sembabule and Rengo, on issues concerning menstrual hygiene, health, and conservation of the habitats of our great crane, using technology.
Yes.
WhatsApp, Twitter, and Facebook.
Yeah, even at times,
even online TVs. Like, I also want to give great thanks to the management of Top Notch Media TV.
Okay.
Yes, for these kind of engagements they are doing.
Thank you.
Even people who are outside Uganda can get to know what is happening here.
You're right.
And through technology, that's when funders actually come in. If your story is not heard, nobody will feel sorry for you. Not that we need to conserve the environment, but we need resources. But through the use of technology, the story can go viral.
You're right.
And a funder X can pick interest in a certain topic discussed, and the resources can be disbanded and causing more impact.
You're right.
Yes.
Yeah, even at times I always see WCU moving with Uganda Wildlife Authority with that huge van, and always have that huge screen, and you always display that information.
Exactly.
So it's also tech-based. Yeah, thank you so much. Then now let's come to the media. Media. How do you think that media can be able to collaborate with WCU programs such that we have this conservation content well moving to the audience?
Media is very key in one, communication and capturing the audience. We always have what we call the focus audience and the audience that is not near us.
Yes.
Now, like for example, what we are doing now, we are recording or we are having an engagement for those that are not near us.
You're right.
So if you have media, the information of conservation will spread to all the destinations that you would want your information to reach. But without media, I don't know whether you can succeed. Media can also help in outreach programs. We have so many talents down there in the schools, in the institutions, that need to be uncovered and, displayed to the nation, to the world, to pick each one, teach one. Because if, like for example, if we train learners of Maryland, and the information is only staying in Maryland, but when you have media, you inspire so many to do the right thing. Like for example, in the areas of waste management, the 3 Rs, if a school X is doing something and you use media to amplify the voice of the individuals, another school in another district will do the same. So impact will spread and automatically you conserve the environment.
You're very right. In your final words, young people, or I may say the youth, may see conservation seeming to be too scientific, okay?
Yes.
Too science and complicated things, in that they cannot engage themselves in such kind of programs. They may say, ibintu byaba ata, ibintu byaba ata, no, ibintu byaba scientists.
Yes.
But what is your message, your final message for them?
By the way, that is a wrong perception. Conservation is for everyone. We need everyone. Like the SDG number 17, the last SDG emphasizes partnerships. Whether you are an artist, whether you are a scientist, whether you are a musician, you have had different musicians coming up composing conservation songs. They are not scientists. You have seen fine artists, someone drawing an art piece that communicates thousands and thousands, but in just a simple art piece. You understand? Science, yes, scientists can come and give us their facts on the rev, or let's say on the trends. When it comes to, let's say, numbers, for example, we've been discussing cranes, that their populations have been decreasing. So that is the role of the scientists, to come and tell us, say, members, we need to take action. According to these results, we need to do something. Otherwise, a species is going to be extinct, and your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren will not have it. But all of us are needed. Arts, scientists, musicians, writers, journalists, like what you are doing now. This information is going to reach a vast area, and in so doing, SDG number 17 emphasizes partnerships from all angles: teachers, head teachers, students, the church, mosques, so that we conserve for our generation.
It's a pleasure having you, Mr. Hamza.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Most times we are always self-driven. When they give you a concept, you can either work whether the resources are there or when there are no resources. But the love for nature and protection of our environment, of our wildlife, pushes us, develops leadership and teamwork, enhance academic learning. The clubs in schools are a class outside class. There are some subjects or some disciplines that may not be well expounded well in class, but if engaged in club activities, you'll eventually, in this case I'm talking about the learner, even some teachers, because it is us who come and build the capacity of our patrons, you'll eventually pick and hear, oh, this is what, let me say, Isaac Newton meant when he said in his third law of motion that to every action there is an equal and opposite what? Reaction. But not just grabbing the law, but practically, when you are in the field, when you are in the club activities, you practically grasp Newton's third law of motion.
How many of us have smartphones? Don't worry about your hand, I'm not taking your phones. Yes, smartphones, and there is free internet here. I would already have posted this book. If I am on LinkedIn, if I am on Twitter. We have been here for 2 days. How many of us have posted
standing behind a teardrop for ICF and say, I am in Imbarara attending this workshop. You have a smartphone, you have free internet. How many of us have posted? So you ask yourself, why are we here? To me, that is very important. So let us learn to make good use of our budgets. I will post, I'm here. Of course, I know you have permission from your school administration or even the teachers are here. But the first thing is promoting what you do.
You are watching Top Notch TV Beyond the Lens.
From the heart of Uganda's breathtaking destinations to the boardrooms where tourism strategy is implemented, we bring you Let's Talk Tourism. This is a show made for tourism professionals, conservationists, environmentalists, destination manager companies, and those who are managing hotels, and every voice shaping Uganda's tourism. We will unpack issues, spotlight success stories, showcase top destinations, and provide a voice to the tourism private sector that it deserves. Wildlife management, MICE tourism, hospitality management, environmental conservation, and much more. Let's Talk Tourism, elevating Uganda's tourism conversation, only on Top Notch TV.